All right, we're back.
All right, so we got some questions. One is for Courtney.
Okay.
What is the hardest thing about moving to the United States, and how long did it take you to get used to living here?
All right. I was very lucky in that I'd already been at high school in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'd done a year of high school there. So that sort of helped me prepare for coming to college here. I think the hardest part is leaving behind familiarity of home and leaving behind comforts and things that you know about home and coming into a new place with not knowing anybody, meeting new people, and adapting to a culture that may not seem too different, but in many small ways is. But I feel I've been at Chapel Hill since January now, and I feel like I'm pretty familiar with everything and feel right at home here.
For both of you, do they wear school uniforms, and what time do kids usually leave school?
Mm-hmm. In New Zealand, the school day goes from about 9 a.m. through to 3 p.m. and most students wear uniforms, yes.
Mm-hmm. And it's about the same for Uzbekistan, actually.
I think this one's for Lily. How long would it take to build the buildings, and what does the Uzbek flag look like? So you can repeat the questions.
Okay, so how long would it take to build the buildings in Uzbekistan? I have no idea. I think now it would take a year max, but they probably took a lot longer back when they were built in the 1200s. And the second question was, what does the Uzbek flag look like? So I'll try to pull it up, but now I'll just answer. It has blue, white, and green stripes, and then a red crescent moon and 13 stars next to the moon to describe or to represent all of the provinces.
What are the homes like in both countries, both urban and rural?
Something that I've noticed living in North Carolina, there are a lot of apartment complexes and neighborhoods. So you may have a home in a neighborhood that has like a name and maybe a clubhouse and a pool. That doesn't really exist in New Zealand. We generally have standalone housing. In bigger cities, there are high-rise apartments, but not really the complexes or anything like you have here. And there is a big rural population in New Zealand, and often it'll be just a typical farmhouse, maybe with some land surrounding it. But generally, houses are a lot smaller than they are here.
So in Uzbekistan, it depends on the city or the country. In the city, it's usually Soviet-type apartment buildings. So like the standard is 9 floors, and you'll have a pretty small apartment to fit your family into, but it's usually quite cozy. And then in rural places, or even on the outskirts of cities, Uzbeks prefer houses, so standalone houses, and it's kind of like a lot of houses in the Middle East as well, where you have a courtyard in the middle and then all the rooms lining it, kind of. So that's the traditional Uzbek style.
Courtney, can one get a kiwi for a pet in New Zealand?
No, not at all. If you owned a kiwi, you would be in big trouble. I'm not too sure, but I think how it's like a crime to like have to have like a bald eagle here or endanger them. It's the same thing in New Zealand.
And another question was why they chose it to be the symbol for your Air Force. That was the first question.
New Zealanders are quite well known for their sense of humour. So either it was sort of they thought it might be funny, or it was just because it is our national bird. But yeah, I'm not really sure if they thought it through, because it is funny having a flightless bird as a symbol for an Air Force.
And Lily, what is the government like in Uzbekistan?
The government is based on a presidential system. So the president has the most power, and then you have a Congress, and there's also a court system. So it's kind of like we have in the US. And it's a representative democracy, so people are elected from each of the 13 provinces.
Do people live in the mountains in New Zealand?
No. No. So the question was, do people live in the mountains in New Zealand? And like I said, most people generally live on the coast. it's not like America where there may be like mountain towns. I don't know, like Boone maybe, is that, would you call that a mountain town? Really nothing like that. So no, people don't live in the mountains.
And what sports do they play in Uzbekistan? And what's the second most popular sport in New Zealand?
So the most popular sport in Uzbekistan is soccer. The soccer team is actually pretty good if you follow international play or international soccer.
I'd say the second most popular sport in New Zealand would probably be soccer too, I would say. Yeah. I'd say it would be rugby and then soccer, and then maybe cricket or netball after that.
And why do you go to school so late in New Zealand? Or why does it start later than here?
My mum is an elementary school teacher, and she taught at an elementary school a few years ago in North Carolina, and she couldn't believe that they started at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm really not too sure. It's just that's the way it is in New Zealand and Australia, that you start school at 9. You have a break for morning tea around 10:30. You have lunch between 12:30 and 1:30, and then you go home at 3. So you're not in school for very long, but it works well for the children and the students and the teachers too. They like that start at 9 o'clock.
I think this is a question about the traditional Uzbek outfit. It said, what is the Uzbekistan wearing, and can you tell us about it? So maybe that traditional clothing.
Okay, so traditional Uzbek clothing is usually made of silk. Silkworm breeding is pretty big in Uzbekistan. And sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Just telling about the outfit. Yeah.
Okay, so the outfit, it's the most popular material is called atlas. Which is the outfit that you saw in the slideshow, and you can just Google like Uzbekistan atlas, like literally the type of atlas that you can open and like find a map. It's spelled the same way, and it's based on a ton of like traditional symbols, and it's very colorful. Uzbeks like their color.
Right. Is there a large population of Muslims in Uzbekistan?
Yeah, so that's one thing I forgot in my slideshow, is the religion of Uzbekistan. It's officially a secular state, so it's like the US, but 99% of the population is Muslim, and then the other 1% is mostly Christian.
Okay. And what is the weather like in both places? So Courtney?
New Zealand is a mild temperate rainforest. I think my roommate is she's into like ecology and biology and things, and apparently she was talking about it in her class the other day. So I didn't know that about New Zealand, but we have very mild temperatures. So definitely it doesn't get as hot as it does here, but it is very mild all year round. So definitely not as cold as it is here. So just quite in between.
Mm-hmm. And the weather in Uzbekistan, it's like North Carolina, but drier. So pretty cold in the winter, pretty hot in the summer, really hot in the summer, but not as humid as it is here.
And what kind of animals are native to Uzbekistan?
That's a good question. I mean, you have cats, you have dogs. There's, I forget what they're called, but there's an animal that's endangered that's mostly in northern Uzbekistan that looks kind of like a deer with a snout. But pretty much all the animals we have here.
Courtney, what's your favorite American food?
Oh, as much as I love New Zealand food, I have to say I love American food a lot more. My favorite food here, I'm going to have to say Chick-fil-A. I love Chick-fil-A. And like I said, we don't have that in New Zealand. And I mean, it's not even everywhere in America. So whenever I get the chance, I like to have some Chick-fil-A.
What are the grade level systems like in school compared to the US in both places?
So we start school, we don't have a kindergarten year in New Zealand. So you go straight into school when you're 5, and you do elementary school for 6 years, intermediate school for 2 years, and then high school for 5. So we do an extra year of high school than you do in America.
Okay, so we had, in Uzbekistan, people graduate at the same time when they're 17. So we have the same, it goes up to the same age, but students start, there's no kindergarten, students start at first grade, which starts to age 7, not like age 6, which we have in the US. And then it goes up to grade 5, and then you switch over to, you can switch into two types of schools. You can switch into normal school where you study until grade 10 and then you finish and you go off and do a profession, or you can study until grade 11 which prepares you for university.
All right. What is the population of Uzbekistan?
It's 30 million people is the population of Uzbekistan. It's the largest country in Central Asia by population, even though Kazakhstan is bigger by landmass. Kazakhstan only has 17 million.
Courtney, what is your favorite Lord of the Rings movie?
Oh, probably the first one, because that it has the most like images of Hobbiton in it. So,
are there private and public schools in both places?
In New Zealand, there are a few private schools, definitely not as many as there are here and in other countries like Britain. There are a few, but they're very rare, and not many people go.
Yeah, same. It's there are some private schools run by foreigners, like English schools, stuff like that. But most of the lyceums, which are like the elite high schools, are state controlled.
Do you get summer break?
So in New Zealand, it's in the southern hemisphere, so our years are flipped around. So right now, well, over Christmas time in December, it's summer for us. So Christmas for us is sitting on the beach, playing cricket. It's really, really warm. So we finish school in November and don't start again until the end of February. So that's our summer break. But during June, July, August, that's our winter. So we're still at school.
And Uzbekistan is kind of like the US because it's in the northern hemisphere. Yeah. So you have school gets out in the middle of June and you start again on September 1st.
What kind of grading scale do they have in school there?
One thing that I found difficult coming to high school in America was, and college too, was the fact that in my high school it was 93 and above was an A, and in New Zealand at my university it's 80 and above. So there's quite a big difference between grading scales. So I have to say it is a lot easier to achieve a lot more in New Zealand.
And they don't use A through F. In Uzbekistan, they use the Soviet system, so it's 1 through 5, like you find in Russia. And the lowest is, if you get a 1, you just fail. The lowest that you can get and pass is 2, and then the highest is obviously 5.
What do you guys do for fun after school, maybe in the countries in New Zealand and Uzbekistan?
In New Zealand, I used to do dancing, so that's really popular with a lot of people. A lot of people play sport, so extracurriculars are generally sport. And a lot of people, we live in coastal towns, a lot of us, so a lot of people go to the beach after school or just spend time with family. That's really important too in New Zealand.
And after school in Uzbekistan, there are these things called krushki, which is like, it means little circle in Russian, and it's kind of like a center for extracurricular activities where you can go and do arts and crafts. You can do music. You can, do sports as well. So some people do that. Some people go to extra tutoring. It depends on the place. Some people go and work on their family's farm.
Is college expensive?
College in New Zealand is not expensive at all compared to college here. I think the majority of New Zealanders would pay tuition-wise not above $6,000 a year for tuition, no matter what university you went to.
And the price of college is lower in Uzbekistan, but that's also because incomes are lower generally. And there are very few government allocated seats, so very few scholarships. So if you want to go, you usually have to pay a fair amount, and it can vary in terms of like difficulty for your family and yourself. If you're from a rich family, you'll be fine. If you're from a family that's middle class or working class, you might have to make it a stretch.
What is your favorite national holiday?
My favorite in New Zealand is, let me think, probably Anzac Day. It's maybe similar to like Veterans Day here, maybe. The Anzacs were the Australian New Zealand Army Corps who helped fight in World War I. in World War II. And so basically it's on the 25th of April, and it's a day just to celebrate them and appreciate what they did. And it was the 100th anniversary last year of the first Anzac Day in 1915. So it's always a very special day, and people usually get together and have barbecues or go to a memorial service in the morning, and then just spend the rest of the day enjoying the day off and remembering our soldiers that fought for us.
So I guess the most fun holiday in Uzbekistan is Nowruz, which if any of you are from Persian or Turkish backgrounds, it's a holiday that's celebrated for the coming of spring from Turkey all the way to Afghanistan. And for Nowruz, they usually have like a week-long celebration almost across Central Asia. People make food. They make this thing called sminek, which is like, it's made from wheat germ, so it's brown, but it's really good. It's delicious, and people like dance. There's celebrations everywhere. So I think that's probably cool.
That's all we have time for, so you guys can.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our presentation and learning a little bit more about New Zealand and Uzbekistan.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. If you have questions or more, you can email us, contact us. Yeah. We'll try to get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ciao.